Hey YouTube, welcome back to Modeling in Blender for Unity. My name is Andrew with Triangle 4 Studios, and today we're going to create some more assets for Space 1. Now, if I said that too quickly, you can slow down the video. I do apologize, sometimes I do speak pretty quick. Today we're going to create a heatsink that goes on top of the CPU in our Tier 2 CPU cooler, or in our Tier 2 motherboard and CPU combo. And so it's going to be a quick video, probably less than 5 minutes. We're just going to make some fins, put a little fan on top. Won't take very long at all. Let's get started. Alright, so here we have this CPU that we've designed, and this is a Tier 2 CPU. It's a little bit lower than a Tier 3 CPU, and so what we want to do is we want to give this a heatsink. We previously had a liquid cooler on there, but we don't like that because we think that it's a little bit too much to be giving a liquid cooler right out of the gate. So we're going to have a air cooler. Let's get going and do this. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a cube. And I'm going to be doing this really quickly, and I do apologize if that is frustrating for some people, but you can slow down and always go back, and that is the best way to learn anyway, is to watch things repetitively. Alright, so let's do this. So, I'm going to create a nice little base here. Now, I'm just going based off of memory. I'm sure there might be some flaws in my concept, but let's go with it anyway. Throw in an array modifier here. Give it a spacing of about 1.5. Actually, let's go with a spacing of 2 and make it a -2. And let's put about 25 of those in there. Because we haven't done any beveling or anything, this won't be very taxing on the CPU or GPU, depending on what you're using for your rendering. And we will extend a little beyond the edges. Let's come into the side to make sure that we're not... center. You can see that we're right here. This is us. And so we need to be centered. I do eyeball things a lot so that it's not too taxing and keeps the fun in the modeling. But you still need to make sure that you're somewhat accurate. Alright, so there's that. There's this. And now let's go ahead and throw in some tubes really quickly. Won't take more than a minute. Maybe 3. Alright, so we got this guy. Let's get rid of those. Be doing some changes to that in a moment. When I think of a cooler, I think of Noctua. They make really good coolers. So, but I'm not making a Noctua cooler, but it's still the first thought that comes to mind. Alright, let's go ahead and give that some depth. Go with 0.015 should be a good amount. Let's subdivide that. And that should, wow, that should about do it. And we'll just go ahead and tighten that up a little bit. And we'll bring that up a little tiny bit there. Actually, you know what? Let's be fun. Let's be more interesting. We don't have the restrictions of physics as much as real life does. I can assume that in the future we have better design systems and are more capable. And so let's assume that that's a possibility. And we will make sure that we don't go too far because we want to have them coming from both sides and I don't like overlapping. Alright, so that should do it. Subdivide. Whoops. We subdivided too much there. In fact, that's not what I wanted. So let's subdivide here instead. Yeah, no, that's pretty good actually. Just like that. Good. Now we're going to go back into this, and I think we're going to resize it slightly. Not too much, just a little bit. Yes. That's definitely too much, but yes. That is what we're looking for. Beauty. Alright, now we're going to come to this. We're going to convert that to a mesh. We're going to duplicate it a couple times. Actually, you know what? Forget that. This is capable of being arrayed. So let's do an array on this. 3.5 should about do it. With about 6 of them on there, 7 on there. Let's make it 4. Looks good. Apply it, duplicate it, mirror it on the X global, and yeah, that's basically that. Now let's create a fan. It's a good looking heatsink, not too bulky, not too, I mean, just like this, it would keep, it would do some pretty good cooling, right? Let's go a couple steps further and let's make sure that we're not going to bother attaching it anywhere. It's fine as is. We can just assume. I mean, maybe we should put a pipe through the center. Actually, you know what? Let's just do that because I can just imagine what would happen if there was opposition to that. Sounds like politics. That's not so bad. It gives you the impression that it's designed more efficiently. Let's just shrink it down a little bit more. Give it some extra details for the sake of it. It really doesn't cost much when it comes to the design aspect, and it can really improve the quality of the design and realism. Alright, looks pretty good. So let's create a cube, and we're going to make some fan blades. So here's a cube, and we'll resize it, make it a little bit smaller. And fan blades are generally large, like this. And then we'll bring it out to here. And we're going to rotate it 90 degrees. And this here would be considerably larger than the rest. Like something along that. And this here would be maybe 20% smaller than that. And we'll drag it in. And then we'll rescale. Not quite happy with that, but that's okay. That works. It's fine. Now we need to give this a bit of a twist, and we'll do that with a simple deform. Now that would work, except we have no geometry whatsoever. So let's go ahead and create some geometry. Reset your transforms and reset your pivot. Go ahead and throw on some geometry so that you can have a quality deform without any weirdness. We're only going to have 5 blades, so don't go too far on the design process. Or don't go too far on the subdivision process. And simple deform. Don't need a 45. Let's go with a 15. Yeah, maybe a 30. Yeah, I'm liking that. I'm liking the 30. And then we'll make these edges a little more crisp, but first we will apply that transform. Whoops, I don't need that. Let's make these edges a little less crisp, not more crisp. They're definitely crispy enough. And by crisp, I mean they're more crispy than a pizza from Pizza Hut. The crust, because pizza itself isn't generally crispy unless it's really badly burned. Alright, so we got that, and it's looking good. Let's do a little bit of bevel. Let's go further. There we go. It's good. Smooth. Nice and sharp, nice and crisp, fantastic, makes me happy. Let's do this thing. Now, if you don't know what I just did there, we set our origin of our cursor to the selected. That puts it in the very center of the geometry. Then we selected the object that we want to be positioned at the center of that geometry. And that's this guy, origin to 3D cursor. And then we create a duplicate. We're going to have 5, maybe 6 blades. Maybe 7 blades, and so we will make sure that our duplicate is a multiple of 9, which is the best way to do it. So 9, 54 is a good size. 54. My fingers don't know how to type today for some reason. Well, let's just check that against our math, because I think that's actually wrong. That's actually wrong. So let's go 360 divided by, let's say 45. Perfect. So we'll go with a 45-degree angle. That'll give us the ability to have 8 fan blades. Okay, we'll do an object offset, that one. And we'll set this to 8. And there we go. We have our nice little fan. And it looks a little weird up close. That's okay, though. It's not going to make a difference in real life. It's going to look fantastic. Alright, we'll just go ahead and take these edges, give them a nice bevel. Smooth that. Alright, looks good, looks good. Join that together. Alright, we can even make this actually move in real life, so we won't bother joining this with this. And then we can go ahead and give it some edges. For mounting. Yep, that'll do. Should have done this before, but I wasn't certain about the size. And that's about that. Just like that, we have a nice little heatsink, a nice fan right on top of our CPU here. Now we do have one little guy there. We're gonna get rid of him, and we could, if we wanted to, have a little label on top. But yeah, ultimately that's everything you need. If you want to put on a, you could just throw on a little wire that comes down and connects onto the board. Or you could think more futuristically and think that maybe they don't need wires on these boards anymore. Maybe they've come up with something a little more interesting. Anyway, notwithstanding, that concludes this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.